Good evening, Kansas gun community. I'm Lyle, of course, and welcome to our live fire roundtable chat that we always have twice a month, and we enjoy each other's company. Tonight, we're grateful to have all the guests that we do, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves as we go down the line and give a bio, and then we're going to work through some of the issues of the 2A community and how to keep that unity and how to not eat our own. That's what we're talking about tonight. So I'm glad that y'all have joined. We'll, as folks do join, of course, and if you watch this later, you'll be able to find out and figure out who everybody is. But I'm going to first ask Clint, actually on my screen. You're the first one to introduce yourself. Give us a little bit about business and bio, and that way everybody knows who you are. Go ahead.
Okay. Well. Clint Turner, owner of Williams Gunworks, custom gun builder, pistol instructor. Been doing it since probably about 2011. That's about it.
All right. And next to him is a special guest, Steve Fisher from Sentinel Concepts. Brother, tell us about yourself, man.
Pleasure being here with everybody. Nothing special about me, honestly. Just a dude in the industry. I've been here for about industry side of the house, consulting from various optics companies, weapon companies, manufacturers. Been a full-time instructor. Handgun, carbine, big diagnostics guy for a lot of shooters as well to help break down certain issues. I mean, it's just, the whole gamut, like a lot of other people in the industry as well that are instructors. Shot some 2-gun, some 3-gun for a while, had a lot of fun with that. Just no time trying to make a living doing this other job. So I had to kind of give that up, which I kind of missed that quite a bit. And, just having a good time.
Good deal. And we will give a plug at the end too, but you're going to be out at Spear Point Ranch, just right outside Salina with Steve Worth in September doing critical handgun employment. Is that right?
That is correct. So
make sure you hit up sentinelconcepts.com, go to the events page and get registered. We did an interview here on our channel here the other day, so for that event. Next to you, Steve, is another great guest that John and I've known each other for a little bit, but have never looked each other eye to eye. But I appreciate him and I love what he stands for. And y'all probably recognize him. It is John Correia from Active Self Protection.
Hi, I'm John, and like you said, I own Active Self Protection. I'm a firearms instructor, and I talk while people get mugged. So if you know me, that's what you know me from. Have a successful YouTube channel. But my core is I'm a self-defensive firearms instructor out of Phoenix, and travel the country doing that, and try to keep my nose clean.
And John, you're going to be with us in October 19th and 20th in right outside Manhattan, Kansas. Is that right?
I can't wait. I'm so excited. It will be my first extended time in Kansas, in fact. So I'm really excited to come out and train with you guys.
Yeah. So this is kind of breaking news. Nobody knows exactly. We tipped it out, and John Poitevin actually tipped it out on his Instagram here earlier. But we're letting it out dribble by dribble. But tonight it's out in the open. KS Guncom, along with Tallgrass Shooting Sports, is putting together the training with John Correia. I keep saying your name wrong. Correia. There we go.
Just like the country, just spelled funny.
I know. So, but looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. So, on to the next guy, and that would be John Poitevin. John, tell us about yourself, bro.
I am the owner, and I run a YouTube channel called Crusader Arms Channel. Just kind of a firearms enthusiast and student. So, I don't know, just enjoying what I do and getting to meet all the professionals in the industry and hone my craft. So that's about it.
Awesome. Man, appreciate you. He helps me along too. He asks inquisitive questions that tickle my brain anyhow. So next to him is Derek Cox. He's been with me from the get-go with KS Guncom. So, Derek, introduce yourself, bro.
All right, man. So my name's Derek. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I'm just another average dude that really appreciates the gun community and the culture that it kind of cultivates, I guess you could say. I've been shooting for a very long time. Just started to get into precision rifle stuff, so I think that's becoming a really big thing here in Kansas, and so that's kind of me. Always learning and always trying to help when I can.
Well, you've helped me a lot, of course, and we've had a good time over the years, man. So, and then last but absolutely not least, the lady of the bunch, Corinne Mosher, great friend. Appreciate you. Tell us a little bit about your awesome background there. But tell us a little bit about yourself. If folks have been living under a rock that don't know who you are.
Well, I am Corinne Mosher. I am the Director of Education at Centerfire Shooting Sports in Olathe, Kansas. I became a firearms instructor in 2012, and I started shooting competitively in 2014, and that's what I mainly do now, is three-gun competition. I shoot for Taran Tactical Innovations, Hornady, Bushnell, Walkers, several others. So I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I love for a job, which also includes travel. I've been able to travel overseas several times this last year to teach firearms there. And I hope I can take John's class in October, actually. I think that will be a really amazing, fun experience. This year, I'm hoping to do a lot more training for myself personally, starting with taking a carbine class later this month at Thunderbird in Wichita. So that's really, I love to teach, but I really, really love to learn. So that's a little bit about me.
Along those lines, whoa, somewhere I'm getting feedback. Along those lines, John Correia, talk to us about how much you actually train. I noticed that on your, I was really surprised how much you train outside of your channel, man.
You mean in terms of classes I teach or classes I take?
No, that you take. That is already this year. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I feel like, number one, I am kind of voracious when it comes to learning and growing. I certainly try to, and I think that anyone who's an instructor should be, training like it's their job. Like, if you're not getting some more, well then, and if you're not growing and learning, well, then what the heck is wrong with you, man? So, and I just recently transitioned active self-protection into my full-time gig. It was my side hustle for an awful long time. I pastored a church in Phoenix where I lived for the last 14 years. And so I just dedicated 2018 and I said, okay, Lord, let's train like it's our job, because it is. So last year, with ASP being a part-time endeavor, a serious part-time endeavor, I got about 108 hours, I think, of gun school. This year, my goal is 200. And if I sneak in one class that I'm looking at, I'll be at about 250 hours in gun school this year. So here's hoping. In fact, I took a class with Steve Fisher in March, and it was utterly fantastic. I can't say enough good about it.
It's good. It's good. Fisher, are you there?
I'm here. Okay.
Just checking. I wanted to start out, tonight we're talking about eating our own, and of course, right now we're and this subject was developed. We did over a month ago, and so some of the events that have happened recently did not precipitate what we're doing tonight. And so, however, it's interesting that they've taken place in the national level, but we live on the state level too. And with everybody on the panel, I think gives us a good national as well as state perspective on this issue of eating our own and how the 2A community can't get along with each other sometimes. But first of all, I want us just to kind of define what we mean by eating our own, because that can be a really generalized term. But and that can be, I think, said in different ways, whether it's the caliber wars, or whether it's oh, you're a 1911 guy. Well, you can go to that, or I'm a Glock guy. Glock's the only. There's these ostracizations, if I can use that word, that happen. There's also persons that come out and make statements about the Second Amendment. that's happened recently, in fact. And people just pile on, and man, it's like, all right, let's take them out. How do we handle these different things and these different circumstances? And there's already been some talk prior to going on air about this that has been absolutely just fabulous. And I want these guys to talk. First of all, Fisher, can you give us from a national perspective what you said before we went on air? If you can just say that, man, in a concise way, I really appreciated what you had to say.
You know, here's the thing. We're all adults. Not everybody's going to agree on every topic within inside the 2A community. Absolutely not. You know, it's like I told people before, and others have said it as well. We all have an opinion. We all have a right to that opinion. That's what makes this country great. The biggest thing to realize is that, you know, you may disagree with this person or this company's stance, this company's product on some things. You don't have to like it. You have a choice. Don't buy their products. You know, we talked about this earlier. Get rid of your iPhone, get rid of your Mac, get rid of your jeans, get rid of your car, get rid of, you know, your Patagonia clothing, your multi-tool, your whatever, your whoever that isn't a big, you know, proponent of Second Amendment rights or anything else of that nature. Every company somewhere has.
I think
we
we
lost
lost
Mr. Fisher.
I think we lost Fisher, man. He'll be back. I think Clint could probably finish that out because you were saying the same thing. Can you speak to that, brother?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess, you know, I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole you want as far as, you know, those that don't support the Second Amendment or whatever. We can go down that rabbit hole, and Fisher's right. You got to get rid of your iPhone. You got to get rid of anything that's anti or could be anti-Second Amendment. And if we actually went by that, the rabbit hole would go so far that you wouldn't have anything. And there's going to be people that don't agree fully with what's going on, but you know, that's the great thing about this country. We can all have our own opinions, our own ideas, and if we start to suppress those, well, ideas is what makes us evolve and what makes us grow. And if we start suppressing those ideas, you're suppressing growth. Now, you may not agree with them, but at least have the respect to hear them out. So that's kind of my thought on it. I don't agree with all the, if you disagree with somebody's idea, you can get on the internet and immediately completely bash that company or bash that person. But you know, you give that same person a chance to say it to somebody's face and they won't do it. So the internet, you know, the internet is part of the problem. I mean, we've got this anonymity now that where we can hide behind a keyboard and say whatever we want, and you need to understand that it doesn't work that way. You still cause damage, and negativity breeds negativity. I don't have time for that. I've got stuff to do. I mean, and almost everybody on this board, we all have stuff to do, and we could be doing something better than bashing somebody like Yeti coolers. Who cares? I want them to keep my drink cold. They don't have a say in my guns. So stop wasting energy on this. So my 2 cents, I guess.
Correia, do you have something to say about that?
Well, I mean, you know, I think obviously the 24-hour news cycle makes us knee-jerk things like crazy. You know, I instituted after any atrocity or anything like that, I instituted a 72-hour rule so that I didn't opine about what was going on for 72 hours. And I feel like when I do that, I am much less likely to stick my foot in my mouth and need retractions later on. I think the other part of that is that we tend to get so emotionally invested in our positions that we really can't see anybody else who disagrees with us. Now there are some things, and you know, if we're friends on Facebook on my personal profile, you'll see I'll let my flag fly occasionally and say this is ridiculous, or every once in a while on my extra YouTube channel, I will say, you know, I had one particular product that I called a wretched pulsating ball of suck and fail. But, you know, for the most part, I'm like, look, there are things within the parameters of okay, and that's okay. It's not my choice, but it is what it is. You know, Aristotle is often quoted as saying, you can't find it in his quoted writings, but, you know, apocryphally said that it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. And so to be able to go, okay, I mean, I see that or whatever, but I'm kind of a different mindset. That's kind of the mark of maturity. And it just shows that on the internet, we all tend to be immature kids. And, you know, if you can't, for instance, and I'll drop bombs, you know, if you can't disagree with who somebody voted for president, civilly and kindly, well, then what's wrong with you, man? Like, welcome to adulthood, for gracious sakes. And I just wish we could do better at that.
Agreed. I think very well said. On the state level, you know, we deal with different things. We have a state organization that state association, the KSRA, which is related to the NRA. They're an NRA. I used to work for them actually, and have great respect for everybody on the board still, and have great friendships there, and work with them. You know, and then there's other little factions here and there, and they fight and go on. And Derek, I know you've kind of dealt. We both have dealt with that very situation, and maybe you can speak to that on a state level, man, and more getting people together.
Yeah, sure. You know, I don't always agree with everything that they do. I don't agree with everything a lot of people do in the state. I don't agree with people that, you know, necessarily open carry their Ruger Mini 14 into Starbucks. They do it, and it's not necessarily, I think, the best angle. But at the same time, I think that's an opportunity for us to educate those people on maybe the way that we should present ourselves to the rest of the population, and not be abrasive to them. Don't tell them they're dumbasses. I mean, we can do that, but it's not going to get us anywhere. But I think the important part to remember, especially with the state organizations and the ranges that you can be a part of and the clubs that you can go join, if you're not a part of those clubs and you're not an active participating member, then shut up. Just you don't have a say. If you want to have a say and you want to change the conversation and you want to steer those places in the right direction and actually get and actually make some positive change with that, go join it, get active, get involved, go to the meetings, and make your voice heard. I get really frustrated with the gun community because everybody's a Facebook warrior. People want to go on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and they want to post this stuff and, you know, talk about, oh, you're not taking my guns. Well, that's true. But at the end of the day, you have the responsibility to make a positive impact. And I think the way that we attack each other internally really hurts that momentum that we could gain by moving forward together.
Good. And Corinne, I know that you dealt with it was during SHOT Show here, last year with the Taran tactical situation, and Taran was kind of blindsided by what someone said. Can you just address that in how he dealt with that and how you all dealt with it? And I know you shoot for Taran, so.
Well, I can't speak for him, but I can
Yeah.
kind of, you know, I know that he put out a statement afterwards, which I think was a very good statement. You know, obviously, for those of you who weren't familiar with what happened, there was an individual who was representing Taran Tactical at SHOT Show, who was interviewed by Glamour magazine, that expressed some opinions that seemed to some people to be anti-pro Second Amendment, and some other things, statements which I don't have a problem with somebody having those opinions as their own or even expressing them. The issue was it appropriate or not to do so while representing a pro Second Amendment company, and stating views that went against the beliefs of that company when you're representing the company. So, you know, there we go with, we are so quick to be catty, I think, and I'm not necessarily talking about this individual anymore, but more broadly, we're so quick to be catty. And I think that meanness, nastiness, and drama are the currency of social media. And everybody is, you know, we see this on, if the left, if you will, or the opposite side of the political spectrum, how eager everybody is to posture and to present themselves as the most virtuous, the warrior, you know, the one, basically the virtue signaling, we do it too. So we need to not be so quick to judge. We need to be not so quick with these knee-jerk reactions, like John said. I love that policy of the 72-hour hold on just wait. Can we just wait and let this play out a little bit? It's a horrible thing when in the aftermath of some kind of tragedy or terrorist attack or something like that, when everybody's suddenly on social media, you know, conjecture this and this has happened, when, you know what, we don't even have the facts yet. Can you just hold off and be patient and be respectful? And I feel that there's a serious lack of maturity. Somebody else on the panel used the word maturity. Serious lack of maturity and acceptance. And I think that, and that's a huge issue. We need to be respectful, professional. We need to not be afraid of other people's opinions, and not be so quick to gang up on people who have opinions that differ from our own, even when these individuals are within our own community. Just because we are all on this panel, I'm assuming pro Second Amendment, doesn't mean we're going to have the same opinions on each topic that comes before us. So, you know, we can't, if we start eating everybody, like you said, that we don't agree with, who's going to be left? So we really should be embracing the diversity of thought, if you will. Embracing the diversity of thought, and just be polite, just be mature, and don't be so quick with reactions, especially with being quick to put those reactions out onto social media and condemn and judge. Just chill out.
Very good. You know, one of the things, and somebody can answer this. The question I would raise here is, what does it mean to be anti-Second Amendment? Anybody want to take that one?
What was the question, Lyle?
What does it mean to, when everybody says, well, you're anti-Second Amendment? What is anti-Second Amendment?
Man, that's a broad term. You know, I mean, it could be anywhere from, you know, I don't believe you should own any guns at all to be able to defend yourself, to you're crazy because you want to defend yourself against a tyrannical government. It's such a broad term, all the way down to like what they did with Tim Kennedy. Because of what he said, they thought he was anti-Second Amendment. Come on, man, give me a break. I mean, it's just different ideas, but we have a tendency in the gun community to, if you don't believe like I do fully in the Second Amendment, then you're a piece of trash. Well, that's literally our attitude.
I wanted to touch on the Tim Kennedy thing too, because, you know, we all got the little snippets from the meme pages, and I think we rely on that. It's no different than a drive-by, you know, news article headline that we see on Facebook. I saw those two things, and I was like, wow, that's pretty blatantly pretty bad. Like, it looked real bad. I went and found the video, and I watched probably a good 5 or 10 minutes of it, and he tripped up on a few words. I'm tripping up on words, and I'm just sitting here talking to you guys on Hangouts. Like, he was on a show with Lance Armstrong talking to the guy. He didn't get a chance to explain himself. I don't think Tim's, you know, anti-Second Amendment. I mean, could he have said his words a little bit better? Yeah. But he got caught up in the moment, just like we all do, chatting with each other on a live chat. And I think to just brand somebody right automatically, oh, you're anti-Second Amendment, I don't think that's very fair. We all have conversations about a lot deeper things. So just with one little comment, you can go out and 100% say, yep, you don't like the Second Amendment. You think the Constitution's bad. I don't buy that. I think there's more conversation to be had. And like Corinne was talking about, the 72-hour period of letting something happen and play out a little bit before we start making any sort of judgment and actually conversing about it is important.
Fisher, do you have anything to add to that? Are you there, Steve?
Yep, it was breaking up a little on me.
Oh, okay. Did you hear what Derek said? Do you have anything to add to that with the Kennedy situation?
Yeah, anybody who's been a part of an interview is often at the mercy of the interviewer.
Okay.
You know, we've all had something twisted. We've all tripped over words. I don't necessarily wholeheartedly believe, that's Tim's, sentiment. I'm not talking for Tim, obviously. And that's cool. Again, it comes back to everybody has their belief, their right, what they feel. And, there's been some extractions out on it and all those things. He has a right to that opinion.
Anybody else want to tackle what is anti-Second Amendment?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I mean, so what we talked about earlier was how much, purity we desire, how much virtue signaling, how much purity of being one of us, how much of the totem do you have to affirm to be one of us? And I really kind of feel like that depends on what level of of responsibility or ownership or voice in the community that you want. So, I mean, what somebody said this earlier, like, I expect my phone to connect me to others, not to be a signal of my ideological purity. That's not really what I'm after. So, I listened to the interview. I have been interviewed many times, and boy, howdy, can things get out of hand in a hurry. You can get misconstrued in a hurry. That said, I don't think it was particularly well stated, and I think he might have doubled down on a couple of spots on his social media and burned himself to the ground, when sometimes you just ought to shut up. So what does it mean to be anti? Well, I mean, some folks would say, listen, if you're not an absolutist who says that there should be no gun laws whatsoever, absolutely none, then you're not pro Second Amendment. So if you don't believe that an 8-year-old should be able to buy an AR-15 at Toys R Us over the counter, then you're not pro Second Amendment. I mean, seriously, I know people that do that. Well, just because they're 8 doesn't mean they don't have the right of self-defense. And so, and I think a lot of us would go, okay, maybe that's a little far. Maybe, okay. So maybe I do believe in some gun restrictions of some kind, or hey, if somebody's a convicted felon, they've had due process, and so we believe that they shouldn't have those rights, or whatever. Though you're going to start another fight there. So, I think when I ask somebody, it's like this, and it's funny. My other world, right, and it's still part of this world. As a pastor, there's a whole lot of that same thing. Who's on my team and who's not? Who's a Christian and who's not? Who's my dudes? Which is, how big is my tribe and how big is it not? I've always been a big tent guy, and I say, look, do you believe that an individual has the right to keep and bear arms as a fundamental right? As a fundamental thing, do you believe that people have a right to defend themselves and their loved ones from harm? If you do, then that means that at some fundamental level, you support the right to keep and bear arms. And so that's what the Second Amendment's all about. But of course, in my pastoral world, I'd get all kinds of garbage because, I'd say, well, gosh, do you affirm these basic things? Then you're probably on the team. And people are like, oh, not enough on the team. Want more on the team? Like, not my team because of this other stuff. Well, I think in America, especially in the Second Amendment community and the gun community, you say, can you support an assault weapon ban and be pro Second Amendment? That's where we get, what people will disparagingly call butters. Well, I support the Second Amendment, but, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a wide spectrum of nuanced view in there, and so saying, wait a minute, let's start with a fundamental thing. Do you believe that people have the right to keep and bear arms to protect themselves and their loved ones from harm? If you say no to that, then you say, okay, so then you're not a supporter of the Second Amendment. There's a fundamental level. Well, I think there should be. No. Okay, so let's dig through all the stuff. At its core, in the bottom, do you affirm that? Yeah, I think I fundamentally do. Awesome. Okay, so now we're just going to talk about the details of that plan. That's kind of how I see it, at least.
Anybody else want to speak to that issue?
Hey, John, shall we tell them about our little experiment with the video that you and I made, or the video that you made?
Well, I was going to mention that. I was going to say I was guilty with the when you mentioned the 72-hour rule. when the whole thing started with the NRA going after Yeti, and it just became the smash wagon really fast. And then Yeti came out with their statement saying, to the contrary of what NRA had said. At that point, I released a video, and you know what? I was being snarky, and I did this little video and basically said maybe everybody needs to hold on a minute, because apparently this is going against what the NRA has said, blah blah blah. Then we get more evidence from the NRA. They double down and they say actually Yeti is still not telling the truth for X, Y, and Z reasons. So both Clint and I can't remember if you posted a video, Clint, or if you just, I can't remember, but we basically came back out and said, well, now we got to backpedal, because retract our statement, even though we still disagree with, let's say, the tactics that maybe the NRA used against Yeti. I felt like I needed to do a video saying, look, I apologize for jumping the gun on this one. So absolutely, I fell into that for sure, kind of jumping the gun.
But one thing that John and I did, though, is something that doesn't happen very often within the community, and something that drives me crazy is we knee jerk, we do our damage, but we never go back and make it right. Nobody ever goes back and makes it right. The damage is done. You don't retract your statements. You don't either add on or say, hey, we were wrong in this. None of that ever hardly gets done. So we retracted our statements against the NRA. I even tagged them in it, apologized, and said, hey, look, we kind of jumped to conclusions. We're going to hold off, kind of wait, see how this plays out. But again, all those people that go out on social media and go on the Bash Fest and get all these people aboard this train to try to take companies down or to try to beat up on somebody, you'll never see a retraction posted. You'll never see a correction posted. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure why people do that, but that's just something what I noticed. One of the things I noticed that kind of drives me crazy.
Something that I had just this here today, I guess it was, I was on a phone call with a guy. It's I want to morph into a different area, away from just where we were focused, because I think we answered our questions, but eating our own in this factor, and this really bothered me on a phone call I had from the individual. He's and I no mention of names, and I'm not even going to mention the context, but he's in the gun industry, and not huge, but in the gun industry, and somebody larger in the gun industry. The friendship, it was an interesting dynamic, we'll put it that way. But sometimes I'll just say it this way without giving any details. Sometimes when the smaller guys, and KS GunCom, for instance, is just a stinking minnow in the ocean, will not even take time out to even entertain a friendship with the big guys. I mean, and with the little people, and they just it's just eat them up. I mean, it's like essentially whale bait, and I hate to see that. And for this individual, it bothered me very deeply. But and I know you guys, Steve and John and Corinne, you guys deal with things on a national level. And that's why I appreciate so much you being here, even just the willingness to sit down with us and have a live chat. That's, to me, that's extremely humbling, personally. But that speaks volumes to your all's character. That here's a little bitty, KS GunCom, woohoo, but you're willing to sit down and say, hey, I'll talk with them. How do we deal with that and stay away from this big fish eating the little fish stuff, and actually work together, build new companies that have innovation, instead of saying, oh, yeah, you're building a piece of crap. Get out of here. Get out of my face.
Well, if I can start, I mean, everybody starts somewhere. Yeah. And so I get this idea where, okay, so maybe today I have a large presence, but I didn't always. A couple of years ago, I certainly didn't. And when I was brand new, and I had a lot of wrong ideas, and I'm sure have wrong ideas. I just don't know what they are because I'd change them if I knew. But we all have the thing. So when you beat somebody down, to me, there's a difference between ignorance and stupidity too. You know what I mean? Sometimes ignorance is I just don't know any better. Stupidity is I have been instructed on better or more appropriate, and I still obstinately hold to the old because reasons, right? But I think, you say, oh, I come to this little place, but really it's not the case. I'm among like-minded people, having a good discussion, and stature is irrelevant. If we're a community, then we help one another. And that's kind of one of the things that frustrates me about there being celebrities in the industry. Again, very much like the pastoral world I was in for so long, celebrity pastors drive me insane because it's a level playing field. We're all doing the same thing, and same thing in the gun community and in the self-defense community. Okay, there might be some guys who have a high profile and gals who have a high profile, but we're all on the same team and we're all on the same page. So there's no pedestals to knock anybody off of or to look up at somebody and go, oh man, so much better than us. And I think when we do that, then I think the community gets better.
I appreciate that, John. Corinne or Steve, do you guys want to speak to that?
I guess I can go. Sorry if you can hear thunder in the background. The storm's just
I know that it's rolling in, huh?
I always like to have idols to look up to. But as far as, Lena Michalik and you have the dynasty really of the Michaliks. And so in the shooting community, that's fun. And in any subculture or community, if it's the NASCAR community or the boating or something, you have people who have that you perceive have made it, that are there. Basically, maybe they're doing what you would love to do. So that can be inspirational. But as far as myself, it's kind of surreal to hear you, Lyle, even say something like, "Oh, thanks for being here." I actually had a conversation with a gentleman on a phone call who was opening a range somewhere and said, "Hey, can you come out?" And one of the first things he said on the phone was, "It's just such an honor to even be speaking with you." And I was like, What? Thank you. I don't, what I do obviously is visible to the world, but I really just think of it on a smaller scale. When I was growing up, my family, every Monday night, we'd have a family night and we would each have a job to do. Someone would prepare refreshments, like a dessert that we would have. Somebody would prepare an activity that we would do, a game we would play, or a movie we would watch. And then somebody, all these little things. And so we would have to have a job and present it to a small group, which was our family. And I feel like that's all that I'm doing still as an adult. And with this job that I do is I have a job and I'm doing it. And my family's watching, my family has just gotten a lot bigger. And that's always kind of the way that I hold it in my mind, because you don't always agree with your family. In fact, sometimes you can really, really disagree with your family. And so that kind of helps me with my mindset too of, listen, I'm reading through here, and Mark on our comments in YouTube has said, hey, when did disagreeing with somebody become the same thing as disliking them? You can disagree with your family members, but you know what? If you have such a temporary mindset of, they said this, now I hate them for life. Are you kidding me? That's something that family life should prepare you for your adulthood, is just your general relationships with humans. Think long term. And as far as, celebrity or whatever, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what it means. I'm just doing what I do and my family's watching. So, yeah, I hope I answered your question. I wasn't quite clear what the question was.
Well, something that, whoops. Yeah, you can go on mute there. And it is an honor for you to be here. I know we're good friends, though. That's the one thing that I've tried to do with KS Gun Common. I've always tried to do, as long as I've been around the industry or anything. And I pastored, just like John. I'm still in ministry currently. But, you try to build relationships with people, and the word respect, I think, was used. I think Clint used it, and just and others of that same concept, and you're saying too. You build a relationship with folks, and just like for instance, Corinne the other night, I know her and Mike and their daughter were kind of in a hairy situation that was of none of their making, and well, we want to talk later about that at a later time, a little bit more in detail about having a family plan for defense. But my heart, was in Kansas City, and immediately, when that came up on Facebook, I'm like, how are they doing? I mean, how are you guys doing? And so, or for John Boydevin, for instance, here, I mean, him and I, we live about 40 minutes from one another, 35, 40 minutes from each other. And, I'm a I'm a Reformed guy in my theology. He's a devout Catholic. I respect him with great and dear respect. And, I really do. I mean, he's a dear friend of mine. And all that, I mean, I go down the row and think of is a relationship. Even, I mean, with John Correia, you and I, we've talked a little bit, and there's and Fisher, you and I've talked over the last couple of years. There's a relationship there, and people. You guys are people, and you're not. And there is that family type. Maybe I'm saying it all wrong. I don't know, but I think we've lost that. We really lost that. In that we have to respect each other, and we have to care about one another. And if what's the old saying, that if we don't stay together, we'll die separately.
Yeah, if we don't hang together, we'll all hang separately.
There you go. And that's, I mean, that's I really truly think that the 2A community, man, we truly got to learn that we got to stick together, and we may disagree on little points, and whether it's what somebody might have said at some point in time, or whether it's a caliber war or a Glock or this or that or the other thing, God only knows what it is, or whether it's how somebody voted, on the state level. Man, we're humans, and we got to respect each other. Anybody want to tackle that I just screwed up?
I have a thought. As you were speaking, it really reminded me of the flag with the divided snake, and it says, unite or die. You guys, I mean, this is the time. I don't know, and I'm only 32 years old, but I love history, and I think about the founding fathers every single day. I recall what they did, why they did it, the circumstances in which they did it, the sacrifices that they made. And because I feel so strongly that we're fighting now to preserve what they fought for. But what does that look like? What does preserving it look like? I mean, so far, and thankfully not yet, it doesn't look like taking our guns and marching out into the street against the government, so thank God. But what does being divided look like nowadays? Mm-hmm. It looks like eating each other. It looks like being petty. It looks like ganging up on our own people. And you know what? Who's doing that? I'd be careful of the influences that would prompt us to do that. It's kind of, who's stirring the pot here? It's coming from the outside. And we really, really have to be careful, because if we don't unite, if we really are picking at each other, we're going to be too busy picking at each other to pay attention to what might be going on the other side of the aisle. And we'll be too distracted. We'll be too mean. And then when it comes time to unite, we won't be able to do that because we've alienated ourselves from each other, from the people who really matter. So just like Lyle was saying, we need to be a family. We need to understand that different people bring something different to the table. And sometimes that comes with things you don't agree with necessarily, but you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And you really have to keep the perspective of these days, what's going on now, because there's serious risk here that negative, horrific changes could be made to, the Second Amendment or the future of our rights. And it'll just be easier for these to be done if we are squabbling and quarreling and within our own community. Our own community has to be strong first.
Portavan, I wanted to ask you to just pop in. One thing that I want to say this publicly. Portavan and I have had vehement disagreements. John, can you hear me, man? Looks like he's stalled out. Can you hear me, John Portavan?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, but you and I've had like vehement disagreements, man, about different things, and great long debates. But you know what? We respect each other, man. And how would you characterize, as you're sitting here listening to this? What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, as far as being united as a group, I think that's absolutely true. But I also think that one of the biggest things is, and we kind of touched on this, was just humanity as a whole, the way we treat each other. We have I don't know, we've kind of become callous. We're already somewhat people as humans. And so we don't like what we don't know. And so you get in these little cliques. And so, I was thinking while you were talking about this, not to go off on a big deal, but I remember I was on the road one day and I was up in Minnesota and I got rear-ended at a red light. Two cars ran into each other and they ran into me and they pushed me into a truck in front of me. And I barely bumped them. And the second I touched that truck, the people jumped out of the truck in front of me and they started screaming at me, get the F out of the car, blah, blah, blah. And they're just yelling at me, irate. No one was obviously hurt on their end. I got out of my vehicle and I said, hold on just a second. I'm going to go check on the people behind me who got in the accident. They never thought once, to even check to see if someone was hurt. Their instant switch was, you've offended me. You know what I mean? Essentially. And it was amazing just how we see it on a daily basis in traffic. You're just a car. You're not a human. You're a car in my way. Get out of the way. And I think overall, it's not just that we as a community have to stick together, but we have to try to help people see the truth. That's, the overarching goal. We're seeking the truth. We're truth seekers. And that's what we're going for. But we have to be able to do it in a civil manner. Because like Corinne said, God forbid the day ever comes where it goes to guns, which would be horrible and disastrous. Pray to God that there are good leaders if that day ever comes, because if there's not, you end up with a scary picture. So, and that's what I've noticed, like with me and Lyle. I tease Lyle, Lyle teases me, and we have arguments or discussions about faith, but we both love each other. And the reason we have that conversation is because we both believe in what we believe. And once again, we're trying to find the truth, and we're trying to convince each other or help the other person see the truth is what it comes down to. But you have to be able to do it in a friendly, cordial manner. So I don't know.
No, I agree. And one thing too, on the national level, you guys
I hate to interrupt, but I have to go. Apparently there's a in performing. So
yeah, guys, my sirens are going off too.
Okay. You guys be safe, okay?
All right, see you.
All right. Yeah, my sirens are going off, so.
Okay, head for safety, y'all.
All right. I really enjoyed the conversation, everybody. John, it was a pleasure to meet you. Everybody else, it's a pleasure to see you again.
All right. Have a good one,
guys.
Be safe. So, Lyle, can we talk about me coming to Kansas again with tornado sirens going off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Lyle, real quick, just want to touch on something. While we're still on that topic of respect and stuff like that. One thing that I've always wanted to point out, and it's kind of drove me crazy over forever, since I can remember. We're so divided amongst the community. Can you only imagine what would happen if we united for, let's say, 2 weeks? I mean, imagine what we could do. Imagine the things that we could get done. When we're pushing our energy that we would normally push on each other, we could push it, let's say, to the NRA to get stuff repealed, the Hughes Amendment repealed, to start pushing back some of this anti-gun stuff, working together to push back against it instead of barking at each other. There's so much wasted energy barking in between the gun community. It's not even funny. In fact, almost all of the energy in the gun community is spent barking at each other quite a bit. I mean, I build custom guns, but I don't belong to anybody. I do it for every dealer in my town. And so I'm very neutral. So I get to hear from everybody in my town. Everybody in Wichita, Kansas comes to me and they go, "Did you hear about so-and-so? Well, they did this, they did that." And my response is always the same. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not an issue. Let's worry about what we can do instead of worrying about tearing people down, I guess is a general idea.
Very good. Very good. I do want to, we're getting close to wrapping up here. With sirens going off, I do want to give Fisher, I want to give you a chance to kind of sell your wares there, brother. So to get people to come out to your class out of Spear Point, and can you give a plug for yourself?
Yeah, we got at Spear Point Ranch in September. Doing critical handgun. First time actually teaching in Kansas, so I'm pretty excited about that. I know, right? Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. New state, new opportunity, new students. It's always a good time.
So, and that'll be critical handgun employment. So, and correct. By the way, sentinelconcepts.com and /events, they can get to it. And you're all over Instagram, Facebook.
Oh yeah,
more on Instagram because and if people want to, if they have nothing better to do when you're traveling, they can catch you live on Instagram.
Well, I'm driving across country.
That's right. So you can talk with Yeti live. But no, I wanted you to be able to get that in. John, you want to, in October, I'll try to calm your fears when you come to Kansas.
I'm just being funny, man.
Yeah, I know. In October, we generally don't have tornadoes.
Well, that's good.
However, we have had them in November.
Okay, well, there we go. I mean, it's funny. It's all about where you grew up, right? I grew up in California, so earthquakes don't scare me at all. Like, don't scare me a bit. But when I went through a hurricane, when I lived in Florida, when I was in the service, I was like, this is scary, So it's all what you grew up with. I just don't want to end up in Oz. That's all. It was really it.
You'll be okay out here, man. Tell us about what you're going to be doing with church security and then Survive the Fight.
So we're going to start with church security, which means that my specialty with church security is churches of about 300 and under. A lot of church security plans are based on large churches with significant budgets, but my world has always been, look, your security team is 3 people that are regular folk that aren't cops and aren't paid to do what they're going to do, but they are interested in keeping the congregation safe. And so we work through a day worth of mostly non-firearm stuff of how do we really think about security and what are our priorities in security. Because I've always said a church needs to have, it needs to be safe in order to be hospitable, that in order to be open and welcoming and loving and inviting, it has to have safety as the core. So we work on that. And then we also do work on, because everybody, in church security is worried about that Sutherland Springs happening to them. So we talk about that a little bit. We do work we can work the range a little bit to kind of say, what does that mean? And what could we do? What is our current skill set? And that varies person to person. So we do that. And then the kind of main Survive the Fight tour, we do a lecture on lessons learned. These are the things that I've seen again and again and again in CCW gunfights and the things that we have to really pay attention to in order to be ready to successfully defend ourselves with a firearm. And then on the last day, on Saturday, we get out on the range and we do those things, and we actually practice them. So, this last time, we just did it this last weekend in Battle Creek, Michigan. I have one coming up in Wisconsin this month. And we want to make folks demonstrably better. I don't want people to go out to the range and spend a bunch of money and make smoke, turn money into smoke and noise. Instead, we want you to get demonstrably better. So we work on the skills and the abilities that get you better from A to B, so that at the beginning of the day, we have an assessment. The end of the day, we have an assessment. And every single student will get better at those things that we pay attention to. And then, everyone leaves with the knowledge of what they really need at a baseline core minimum competency to defend themselves with a firearm. So it's a great time of training. I'm usually, by Saturday night, I'm about 11 on the I'm about to die scale. I'm usually tired enough.
Yeah.
So it's a good time. I can't wait to come out and train with you guys in Kansas.
And we're looking forward to it, man. Just a question as we get ready to go and let you guys go. I know Steve and John both have to go. I wanted to ask this question of you guys, and to me, you guys are the big deal. But who, Steve, if you could point out one guy in your life that you look up to in the 2A community and has been kind of a figurehead that you would say, as I've become an instructor over the last 20 years and stuff, this is somebody I really looked up to and I really appreciate. Who would be that individual?
Whew, man, it's tough. I've had so many over the years. Most notable, I think, for me in my life was the late Pat Rogers. Pat was pretty instrumental in taking me under his wings back around 2005-ish. It was ironic. I was actually teaching classes for him the day he died, teaching his program in the range, in the town, in the city that I first trained under Pat at. Which made it even more ironic, in itself. So that was a hard loss. But I would probably have to say Pat was definitely that that NRA life member, role model dude to me for a lot of things, and kind of a guiding spirit at times for a lot of stuff. So it's it's kind of funny how every now and then something will crop up, a picture, a video, or a comment of something like that, and there's always something there, that little reminder that, like, there was a picture from the recent class I did, and there's a memorial plaque of him, and just totally out of the blue, it's not a stage shot or anything. I'm sitting there at a desk and I'm, talking to the class overall, and over what would be from my left shoulder, there's that plaque of Pat. He's looking directly across towards me. It was just kind of funny when I looked at it. It was just kind of a weird, ironic. Like, I saw that picture after it came out. I just kind of laughed to myself. But yeah, I'd have to say it would be Pat.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
We miss him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
John, who would you point to?
Well, first and foremost, I'd have to say, I've been studying empty-handed skills for the last 12 years under my instructor, Lawrence Robinson. And Lawrence has been a huge influence on me in defending myself, learning the attitude of a self-defender, really not less the art of war than the art of peace. Another senior rank there, Joel Levinson, huge influence on me from a business perspective too. Joel's an incredible businessman. Lawrence's teacher, Skip Hancock, had a good influence on me as an empty-handed skills guy. When I started really getting into firearms, my senpai, I call him, Mike Abramovich, was my first real instructor, my NRA training counselor, and I imbibed a lot of his kind of ethic of teaching students and welcoming them, and that's just been instrumental, and I've kept that from Mike for a long time. More recently, I would say Tom Givens for sure. Tom has been a big influence on me in terms of the way that he teaches instructors. I'd also say in terms of my shooting skills, I would like to claim Yeti as a guy who I go to a lot. Steve Fisher is a guy that I always go to. Scott Jedlinski as well has been my red dot shifu, has taught me how to shoot the red dot well. So those are guys that I look up to immensely. There's a bunch of others, but when you ask where are the big influences, John, in life right now, those are the ones that come up first for sure.
That's fascinating that you said Yeti.
Well, I mean, that's what he's known as, right?
Yeah. No, I mean that you guys have that relationship. That's cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. John's a great dude. I've followed him for a long time, in his work, and it's awesome. And again, it really comes down to what I would consider the pure factor and the equality within inside the, realm of this, what a lot of people will call an industry. There's a lot of it that I keep a lot closer than that I considered family. John's definitely involved in that inner circle of that.
That's cool.
You're going to make me cry, Steve. I mean that, man. Wow, bro. You just made my night.
Wow. Hey, we've had a family breakthrough right here. No, I really appreciate you guys. Again, Steve, you can be found all over social media, and then sentinelconcepts.com. And then activeselfprotection.com is where you can find John at. And then go to YouTube. I'm telling you, I actually, John, you and I have to do a video just by ourselves to get you introduced to Kansas. Because there are some folks, I talked to an instructor this afternoon that said, "Who's John what?" And I said,
I don't expect everybody to know me.
Have you been living under a rock somewhere, brother? I mean,
man, if you go to YouTube and search Active Self Protection, the main channel has about 818,000 subscribers today. The second channel, where I let my goofy flag fly a little bit more, Active Self Protection Extra, has about 41. And we post 10 new video properties a week between the two. On the main channel, every single day, a new narrated video of a real-life self-defense encounter that somebody got into. About 2/3 of them are positive outcomes, and about 1/3 of them are negative outcomes. Empty-handed, firearms, USA, other countries. It's a labor of love, but I'm actually, when we get done here, I have to narrate the videos for the rest of the week so I can go to the NRA annual meetings tomorrow.
Well, we don't want to keep you from doing the important stuff, brother. And we appreciate you. And Yeti, man, thanks so much, guys, for being on tonight and your wisdom. And we respect you. And I look forward to you coming to the state and being able to have the chance to train with you too, and spend some time. I know some of us that are going to spend some time out at the ranch, out at Living Water Ranch or Tallgrass Shooting Sports. We have some plans for that. the two on the ends over here have some plans for that. No, and I don't know if anybody, John or you or Clint, going to be able to get out to Spear Point.
I would like to. I don't know yet, though. That's
okay.
All dependent on budget, and so yeah.
Yes, I will be out at Spear Point.
Okay, and
Yeti is definitely on the list, though, of people that I've wanted to take a class with. So if not this time, I will seek him out.
Yeah, well, he just left here. I don't know if he got cut off or what again, but so we'll wrap it up for now. I think we've solved the world's problems. But I think it does. It comes down to respect, and it comes down to agreeing to disagree on some things, and realizing everybody's human, and really taking things into perspective, and before we open our mouths or get these things going with our Cheetos, our little Cheeto covered fingers, going in the keyboard ninjas. But yeah, I think we've had a good discussion, guys, and I appreciate it, John, sincerely, man.
Man, I'm glad to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thank you, and we are looking forward to having you out here. And like I said, we need to do something, just you and me, do an interview so that we can introduce you to Kansas, man.
Anytime, brother. Let me know when.
Yeah, we'll even turn the sirens on for you.
Okay, well, I mean, that's there you go.
John, you really have no idea what you're in for when you get here to Kansas.
That was reassuring.
That's kind of creepy. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm not a part of it.
Whatever. We're going to be party to it. That's what it is.
All right. Well, I'll just conclude for us tonight. Kansas gun community, I hope y'all are doing well. I hope Corinne and Derek and his family, everybody in the Kansas City area. I've been watching Twitter right now. They are under tornado warning right now in Kansas City Metro, which is scary. So I haven't been able to keep up as much as I wanted to, but I hope they're okay. That's the main thing. So if you're in the Kansas City metro area tonight, this is May 2nd that we're talking here. Our hearts are out there with you, that you're safe, and in any other areas where there's inclement weather going on. So, but thanks to everybody that was able to join us tonight, and the great talk that we had. So for now, Kansas gun community, as always, Kansas proud. We'll talk to you later.